Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar on Kanban boards for NetSuite, focused on streamlining your sales pipeline. Before we get started, just a quick agenda. We're going to start off with our welcome and housekeeping and an introduction to Kanban boards for NetSuite. We'll then touch on some client testimonials, so how our clients are currently using the Kanban boards for NetSuite, before we jump into our focus for today's session, which is the demonstration. We're going to spend as much time as possible showing and using the Kanban boards themselves, so you can get a real feel for how NetSuite's Kanban boards can simplify and streamline your sales operations. We will, of course, have a Q&A at the end, so if you've got any questions as we go through today's webinar, then please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll pick them up towards the end of the session. So just quickly in terms of myself, my name's Ross Johnston. I am the Head of Account Management here at OneKloudX, and I'll be the host of today's webinar. At OneKloudX, we provide implementation, development and support services for NetSuite, and the Kanban board is an example of an application that we have created with our development and implementation arm of the business. So an introduction to Kanban boards for NetSuite. Kanban boards are a visual workflow management tool. So if there's any of you on today's call that have been using NetSuite for a while and have maybe used other CRM or ERP systems, you'll find that it is quite a form-based system where users need to go in, edit transactions and update the information. So the concept of the Kanban boards for NetSuite is all about giving a more visual tool that's easy to use and easy to interact with. So you're still getting that data and it's being updated, but people are doing it more often and more accurately, as it's less of an onerous job for them to be able to do that. Now, although today's focus is going to be on the different sales and CRM transactions and records in NetSuite, the Kanban boards for NetSuite does support any record or transaction in the system. Now, that does also include custom records. So if you've got any perhaps unusual use cases, then more than happy to address how they could be managed using custom records within NetSuite as well. Now, the Kanban boards for NetSuite, as you're updating the records, there are real-time updates. So every time you update a card or drag and drop it from a different status, that's going to update the actual record within the system, whether that be an opportunity, a quote, a lead or prospect, a task, or otherwise. It's all going to be updated in real time. So as a manager, you've got that full visibility of the updates that are being made in the system. Now, the Kanban boards for NetSuite application is completely customizable. So if you've got any information that you're wanting to be viewed on those cards, then you can just let us know and we can update everything on the configuration in the background to make sure that you've got that access to information at your fingertips. Now, the same goes for the different swim lanes. Of course, every business is different in terms of the statuses that they're wanting to track these different records and transactions through. So all of this is customizable and configurable in the Kanban board solution, something that we will touch on during the demonstration. Now, as well as accessing the Kanban boards through the standard UI, which I'll be doing today, so through the laptop, it is also available and responsive on mobile devices and tablets. So if you've got anyone that's out on the road or out in the field that needs to update the records within NetSuite, instead of relying on the NetSuite mobile application or logging into NetSuite through Safari and zooming in and making edits that way, the Kanban board is a great solution to allow people that autonomy and ensure that they are still updating the records and transactions within the system. So you've got full visibility of what's going on. So in terms of client testimonials, we've got a couple here, starting off with FMG Engineering. So FMG Engineering have been using NetSuite since 2014 and found that before adopting the Kanban board solution, there was a real lack of structure around their different workflows in the business, and it was really cumbersome for users to update key information. Now, what that means is, of course, management and higher levels within FMG engineering weren't receiving the visibility of information that they required and they needed because the users simply weren't interacting with the system and updating that key information. Of course, this is summed up nicely by Ian, the IT manager at FMG Engineering, who said, if your data is not up to date, your reporting is inaccurate. Now, that all changed when FMG Engineering implemented the Kanban board solution, and NetSuite is now their trusted, reliable source of truth, as all of the different records and transactions across their key workflows are now being updated in real time with the Kanban board solution. So another client testimonial that we've got here is for Seagull Adhesives. So Lee, the sales manager at Seagull, basically came to us to look at our Kanban board solution to be able to really streamline that day-to-day sales operations, make sure that opportunities were being updated in the system, make sure that quotes were being updated in the system, and that people were really making the most of that data and information that is within NetSuite. Now, in terms of the outcome of implementing the Kanban boards for Seagull, it's meant that there's been time saved across updating and going in and editing transactions, but it has also empowered the sales teams to focus on those key activities. And you'll see there, Lee said himself that he would highly recommend the Kanban board solution. Okay, so as mentioned, the focus for today is going to be on the actual demonstration of the Kanban solution. So I'm just going to jump out of the PowerPoint deck and into a demo account that we've got set up for today's webinar. So I'm just logged into a demo account of NetSuite here, and you'll see once you've got the Kanban board solution installed, users with access will be able to navigate through the traditional menu structure here to be able to access the Kanban board itself. Now, before I do that, I just want to quickly touch on the Kanban board configuration, just to discuss how this can be customized and configured to your use case. You'll see here that we've got a couple of different Kanban boards that we'll be going through today, from opportunities to quotes, leads and prospects, and tasks. But you'll see here we also in this demo account have work orders. So again, this is extendable to any record or transaction within NetSuite. If we go ahead, we'll just select the opportunities Kanban here to quickly touch on the background configuration. And you'll see that there are two main elements for how the Kanban board is configured. The first of which is a save search. So there's nothing particularly special or custom about this aspect. This is simply using NetSuite's standard save search functionality to define a subset of information that's then going to be viewed on the Kanban board itself. Now, what this means is it's completely configurable. You can add and remove different filters and options to make sure that you're viewing the data in the board that is simply relevant to what you're looking for there. So you see here, we've got an opportunities save search, which is basically filtering out all that key information across the customer, the sales rep, the expected close, the status, and the probability, along with the total and weighted total there as well. Now, beyond the save search, the other aspect is the JSON file. Now, the JSON file is the configuration that sits there and actually defines how that information in the save search is then going to be viewed within the Kanban board itself. So basically, this is where we can completely customize and configure the Kanban board exactly to your requirements and your use case to make sure that everything from the swim lines to the color coding to the fields that are being exposed in the Kanban board are accurate to what you're wanting to see. So we'll jump into the actual Kanban board itself, which we do by just navigating to Kanban there. Now, you'll see here that we are, of course, in a demo account, but these boards can be structured in whatever format that you want. So if there's any sort of rules on how you want these to be laid out on the homepage, then of course that can be factored in and implemented as required. So we'll start off with our open opportunities, the example that we have gone through the configuration for. And you'll see here, as soon as we open up the Kanban board, we can see all of the information on our opportunities at our fingertip. Now, each of these different cards is a different opportunity record in NetSuite, but instead of having to go in and find that opportunity and edit and update that, we can do that directly from the Kanban interface here. Now, before we get into the actual board itself, you'll see along the top that we've also got various different options for how we want to filter these opportunities. So say, for example, we are wanting to see any opportunities that are past that expected close date. We can simply click that here and filter down so we can see only opportunities that fit that criteria. If we want to see opportunities that are between 0 and 30 days, and so on and so forth, or if we want to just view all of our opportunities. Now, there's various different ways that these can be filtered. Say, for example, you wanted the filter options along the top there to be your sales reps. So if you were doing a monthly or quarterly sales meeting, you could simply go through and filter based on the individual sales reps. That can all be done and configured within the Kanban boards as well. You'll see at the top that there's also an option to search across the records. So say, for example, you're looking for a certain opportunity or customer or sales rep, you can simply type ahead and search for that. And it's going to look across all of those different records and then identify any that fulfill that criteria. So say, for example, we're looking for any opportunities that include the word Ethernet, we're going to filter down and we're only going to see the opportunities here across those different statuses that include that word. Now, that's a search across any of the records as well. So if you don't know where that information's kept, you're just looking for that on the record, then you can search for that using the type ahead functionality there. Now, beyond that, we can also add multiple filters. So if you're looking for a certain opportunity in this case that fulfills a certain criteria, so perhaps it's for a certain customer, for a certain sales rep, for a certain projected total, then you can add all of those filters and you can stack those filters on top of each other, and you can really get down into the detail of those opportunities that fulfill that criteria. Now, onto the board itself, you'll see that we've got this structured across the different opportunity statuses that are in this demo account. So we've got our in discussion opportunities, opportunities where we've identified the decision makers, ones that we've actually provided a proposal for, in negotiation, purchasing, and then, of course, closed one as well on the right-hand side there. What you'll see as well is across each of the swim lanes, we have got our total projected value of these opportunities, as well as our weighted total, which obviously helps for our sales pipeline forecasting. Now, again, each of these different cards that are in the swim lanes represent an opportunity within NetSuite. And if we double click on that, we can actually drill into the opportunity record itself. Or otherwise we can stay in the Kanban board here. So if you're currently using NetSuite CRM functionality, you'll know that to go in and update the opportunity, you would have to come here, edit it, change the status, update the probability, update the expected close date, and so on. And the Kanban board really streamlines the ability to be able to do that in one centralized place without having to go into the opportunity record itself and do it there. So you see here, we can open up, we can show the detail of the opportunity here. If we want to make any changes on the fly, if we want to reassign this to a different sales rep, we can come in, we can do that here. If we want to update the probability, the expected close date, we can open up the field for the projected total as well if we want to be able to update that on the fly. Basically, any field that's on that opportunity record, we can expose here to allow your users the ability to update that without going in and editing the record itself. Now, beyond the ability to expand here, we can also show the full detail in this view here, which again allows us to come in, we can add memos, we can update that expected close date. And beyond that, we can also see the full history of this as well. So we can see any changes by users in the system that have been set or changed or updated in the Kanban board view. Now, of course, beyond that, beyond expanding and viewing the detail and editing that information, the real power of the Kanban board is the ability to simply drag and drop these opportunities across the different statuses there. So you see here, we can move that from our in discussion to identified decision makers. And what that's actually going to do is update the status in the background. So we can see that status is updated in the record itself. Now, what this means is, as well as having this one centralized view in the Kanban board, since we are actively updating the records in real time, all of your standard reports and save searches across sales that you're currently using are still going to be updated, and you're still going to be able to have that accurate system-driven reporting. You've simply got an easier way for users to interact with the system and do that on a more regular basis. You'll see here as well, as we drag and drop these opportunities across the different statuses, we will also have the total projected value and the weighted total updating as we are dragging and dropping these from one status to another. Of course, that's going to dynamically update our totals across these different categories here. Now, one thing to mention as well is, since we are updating these in real time, you'll see that there's a nice prompt there at the bottom, just giving you a green tick, letting you know that that data has been successfully updated. And if there are any issues when it's updating, you will, of course, have visibility of that as well. So in terms of the expected close date, as this is a demo account and this opportunity is past the close date, we're actually going to go ahead and just update that. And if we click save, again, we can see that that has been successfully loaded, as well as updating automatically the color coding of that opportunity, because it has changed from past close to 0 to 30 days. So updated in real time there as well. Okay, so again, if there's any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat and we'll pick them up towards the end of the session. But as we go through this, please feel free to ask anything about how you would use Kanban boards internally, and I'd be more than happy to set up a further discussion if required as well. So in terms of the other boards that we've got set up for today, as well as managing the opportunities, you may want to manage any open quotes or estimates that you've got within the system as well. Now in this one, it's going to mirror in terms of the swim lanes here, so the different statuses across in discussion, identified, decision makers, proposal, and negotiation and purchasing here. Don't have as much demo data for the quotes as I do the opportunities, but effectively the same applies, where we can view all of the detail here, we can make updates, and we can drag and drop to update those statuses, and we can maintain full visibility whilst updating those transactions in the background within NetSuite itself. So in terms of other use cases for Kanban boards, as mentioned, they can be used across any records or transactions in the system. So here we've been looking at opportunities and quotes, so very much transaction driven in the boards that we have viewed so far. But of course, we can also use that for any of our entity records. So in this case, the tracking of our leads and prospects in the system, and how we effectively go from that initial lead coming in to the customer relationship once we have secured that customer. Now, one thing that I neglected to mention on the opportunity and quote Kanban is the different actions that we can do from here as well. So we can effectively create different tasks or emails or opportunities. Effectively, we can design this based on how you are interacting with the system. So say, for example, back on the opportunity Kanban, if you wanted to create a quote from that opportunity, then we can add in that action and allow you to do that without having to go and navigate somewhere else into NetSuite to be able to access that transaction. So can very much be driven by your workflow and your process and how you are looking to interact with these transactions and records within NetSuite. So you see here we have got a Kanban board for our leads and prospects. And in this case, instead of the color coding being based on our close dates, as it was with the opportunity, this has been driven by our sales reps. So you see here we've got some color coding rules around the different sales reps that we've got in this demo account, as well as being able to see any unqualified and unassigned leads as white here, so that we know we need to take action. Now from here, in terms of the process flow, if there is a lead that comes in and it's not been assigned to a sales rep through the territory, of course we can come in here and assign that lead. So in this case, we can go ahead and say that we are assigning this to Will Clark. Now everything in terms of your current workflows, so if there's any email notifications that are going to sales reps based on new leads, that will all still be triggered as we're updating the NetSuite records in real time here. You'll see here now that we have updated that lead. It has now updated the color coding based on it being assigned to our sales rep, Will Clark. Now from there, again, we can open up all of these different fields. We can allow the users to add comments, update categories, update territories, effectively any information that you would be updating on the lead or prospect record itself can be opened up through the detail on the Kanban here as well. Now, of course, beyond that, we've got our different statuses. So if we do want to drag and drop this across the different statuses, say, for example, we have now qualified this lead, the same applies where we can simply move that from swim lane to swim lane. And again, we'll get that notification at the bottom, letting us know that that's successfully updated. Now, the other thing is, if you are currently using NetSuite's Salesforce automation functionality, you'll know that your lead to prospect to customer is automatically triggered based on different transactions that you're creating in the system. So if you've got a lead and you create an opportunity, that's going to automatically update that lead to a prospect. And likewise, if that prospect then has a sales transaction, so a sales order created, that's going to automatically update that status from prospect to customer. Now, of course, that is still going to apply in the Kanban board. So if we take one of our leads and create an opportunity for them, which will pop up, let us create the opportunity, enter any details that we require. Effectively, what's going to happen is that's going to trigger that Salesforce automation and automatically update that lead to a prospect and move it across those swim lanes as required. So we'll see here that that has updated HAO glass from our leads qualified to our prospects in discussion. Now from there, we can continue the opportunity. Of course, we can then track that opportunity that's been created in our opportunity Kanban, and anything that we are doing there is of course going to impact our customers and how we are managing our leads and prospects through those different statuses. Again, if we want to move that prospect from in discussion to identified decision makers, that's going to update the record in the background in NetSuite. And we'll see here that the status of HAO glass and aluminium has updated to identified decision makers. Of course, the same applies across these boards as discussed on the opportunities. If we are looking for any certain leads or prospects or any information here, we can of course type ahead. We can use filters to really get into that granular level of detail. In terms of how our existing clients that are using Kanban boards use these boards, again, typically this would be used across any sort of internal sales, whether that's monthly or quarterly meetings, and they would effectively use this board as their source of truth to easily navigate through those different opportunities that they've got open. So another feature within the Kanban boards that we've got set up is the ability to manage tasks within the system. So you may or may not already be using NetSuite's CRM tasks. Really useful tool, easy to use, that allows you to create different activities within the system, whether that be tasks, phone calls, or events. And effectively, the Kanban board solution, again, just provides an easier interface for us to manage those tasks through the different statuses. Now, you'll see here, this can be a mix of different internal activities, or it could be meetings with our customers. So you see here that stuff like setting a meeting with stakeholders, we can move that across those standard statuses within the task itself. Now, again, these swim lanes are set up in this demo account based on the standard statuses of not started, in progress, and completed. But if you do want to track any of this information across perhaps a wider range of statuses, then of course that can be factored and configured into the Kanban board during implementation. So same applies here, where we can expand, we can view the detail, we can drill into the actual task itself, and we can also move this across our different statuses to update that task in real time within NetSuite. So again, really useful if we are looking at scheduling different events or tasks or phone calls for our sales reps, and making sure that there's an easy and seamless way for the users to update that information without having to go and navigate through NetSuite to find what they're looking for through the easy to use and interactive Kanban board solution. Okay, so again, we've tried to spend as much time as possible in the Kanban board itself. If you do have any questions or anything that you'd want to see further, then please feel free to get in touch. I'd be more than happy to discuss in more detail. But apart from that, we will jump back to our slide deck that we've got here, just to summarize what we've gone through just now. So in terms of the benefits of the Kanban boards for NetSuite, as we've touched on throughout the demonstration, Kanban boards provides that visual clarity and easy workflow understanding for users, which ultimately results in more engagement and update of your NetSuite data. As we've discussed a couple of times, the boards are fully customizable to your team's unique needs. I'm yet to hear a request that our development team can't deliver on. So if you've got anything that's outside of the box or a little bit of a niche use case, I'd be more than happy to hear that and discuss how we can set that up in the Kanban board solution. And again, as well as being able to access the Kanban boards through the web user interface that we've been going through in the demonstration, you can also access on mobile or tablet to make sure your users have that true on-the-go productivity. As we've seen, there is drag and drop functionality for effortless workflow management, and those drag and drop features and the updates that we're doing in the Kanban boards updates your NetSuite records in real time. And again, there's a real increase in user engagement with updating records, which we've seen across all of our clients using Kanban, including FMG, engineering, and SQL adhesives, as we touched on through the client testimonials. Now, in terms of an end result for you as a sales leader, sales manager, you will have more accurate information in the system. The users will have higher levels of engagement, and ultimately your pipeline reporting will be more accurate, and you'll have a better view of what is actually going on across your customer base. So you see that we've just dropped my email address in there. It's ross.johnston@onecloudx.com.au. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat just now, or otherwise you can reach out to myself directly, and I'd be more than happy to discuss in greater detail. Yeah, thank you very much. Hope to see everyone that joined today's session in our future webinars. We do host webinars on a monthly basis, so please look out for the invite coming for next month and look forward to catching up with you all soon. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.